Welcome everyone to the Dream Circle with your facilitators, Gwen Clare and Dr. Weiler Green. I'm just going to briefly mention these two slides. We have some upcoming events that might be interesting to you. The first one is a Q&A with Pablo Sender, and even if you're not in our area, you can sign on to our webinar. You don't need a user ID, you don't need a password. You just go to this link, which will also be in your recording this week, and you can get in and participate in the Q&A with Pablo Sender. And I'm going to take the presenter back from Gwen for a second. And the second slide here is a reminder that Pablo will also be here Thursday for 2 programs, and the first one is a lecture that will be live streamed. So you could also participate in that even if you're not in our local area. So we would love for you to join us, and all these details will be in your recording this week. Also, one word about last week's recording, which you still have not received. We're sorry about that, but because there was a little bit of a recorded song in there, YouTube, with its magic recipe, found out about that and flagged a copyright issue. Now, we're contesting that because we're just a nonprofit organization using this for educational reasons. So we will probably get the copyright hold removed, but they get up to 30 days to decide, but I don't think it'll be that long. So maybe another week or so we can release that recording. And that is all from me, and I'm going to give the presenter back to Gwen and turn it over to her. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, guys, first of all, Gwen is kind of batting her head against the wall because Mercury is getting ready to retrograde, and it's really created a lot of havoc in scheduling and getting things prepared. And I sent y'all the wrong dream in the email, so if you haven't read it yet, don't worry about it. We have the right one on the screen. We are going to record all of Nancy's with her permission. When y'all send in a dream, if you want the whole thing recorded, that's fine. If you don't, you let us know, and we will stop the recording because some of us are more shy. I've been online so long that I don't care what people know. You know, it's like if they're willing to listen, fine. They can hear all about my sex life and everything else that goes on. But anyway, I'm going today to continue with Blavatsky's work, and because I'm also a Leo, I put the best of her up here as far as her look, because she's got such haunting looks. So today we don't have the fan, but we have her looking off into space and being romantic looking. So, and as always, I'm taking these from her appendix on dreams. And I think we have one more week of these. Always very interesting. So I'm going to start with, someone asked her, but what is a dream? She says, that depends on the meaning of the term. You may dream, or as we say, sleep visions, awake or asleep. If the astral light is collected in a cup of metal vessel by willpower, the eyes are fixed on some point in it with a strong will to see. A waking vision or dream is the result, if the person is at all sensitive. The reflections in the astral light are seen better with closed eyes, and in sleep still more distinctly. From a lucid state, vision becomes translucent. From normal organic consciousness, it rises to a transcendental state of consciousness. Then the question is, to what causes are dreams chiefly due? Her answer, there are many kinds of dreams, as we all know. Leaving the digestion dream aside, There are brain dreams and memory dreams, mechanical and conscious visions. Dreams of warning and premonition require the active cooperation of the inner ego. They are also often due to the conscious or unconscious cooperation of the brains of two living persons or of their two egos. Then the question is, what is it that dreams then? Her answer, generally the physical brain of the personal ego, the seat of memory, radiating and throwing off sparks like the dying embers of a fire. The memory of the sleeper is like, and this is a Carolinian 7-string harp picture. That's what she's talking about. And in his state of mind may be compared to the wind that sweeps over the chords. The corresponding string of the harp will respond to that one of the 7 states of mental activity in which the sleeper was before falling asleep. If it is a gentle breeze, the harp will be affected but little. If a hurricane, the vibrations will be proportionately powerful. If the personal ego is in touch with its higher principles, and the veils of the higher planes are drawn aside, all is well. If, on the contrary, it is of a materialistic animal nature, there will be probably no dreams. Or if the memory by chance catch the breath of a wind from the higher plane, seeing that will be impressed through the sensory ganglia of the cerebellum, and not by the direct agency of spiritual ego. It will receive pictures and sound so distorted and inharmonious that even in devachanic vision would appear a nightmare or grotesque caricature. I think it's very interesting that she knows about the brain at this point too and how it works. Now remember, we're late 1800s. So as a therapist and psychologist, it interests me. Neuropsychology really interests me in the form of the brain, and she really has it down connected to the esoteric principles. Therefore, there is no simple answer to the question, what is it that dreams? For it depends entirely on each individual what principle will be the chief motor in the dreams, and whether they will be remembered or forgotten. So, our so-called prophetic dreams a sign that the dreamer has strong clairvoyant faculties? The answer, it may be said in the case of persons who have truly prophetic dreams, that it is because their physical brains and memory are in closer relation and sympathy with their higher ego than in the generality of men. The ego self has more facilities for impressing upon the physical shell and memory that which is of importance to such persons than it has in the case of other less gifted persons. Remember that the only God-man comes in contact with his own God, called spirit, soul, mind, or consciousness. And these three are one. But there are weeds that must be destroyed in order that a plant may grow. We must die, said St. Paul, that we may live again. It is through destruction that we may improve. The three powers, the preserving, the creating, and the destroying, are only so many aspects of the divine spark within man. Question, do adepts dream? I thought this was interesting. Since she received the Mahatma letters. Answer, no advanced adept dreams. An adept is one who has obtained mastery over his 4 lower principles, including his body, and does not, therefore, let flesh have its own way. He simply paralyzes his lower self during sleep and becomes perfectly free. A dream, as we understand it, is an illusion. Shall an adept then dream when he has rid himself of every other illusion? In his sleep, he simply lives on another and more real plane. Question: are there people who have never dreamed? Answer: there is no such man in the world, so far as I'm aware. All dream, more or less, only with most dreams vanish suddenly upon awakening. This depends on the more or less receptive condition of the brain ganglia. Unspiritual men and those who do not exercise their imaginative faculties are those whom manual labor has exhausted, so that the ganglia do not act even mechanically during rest, dream rarely, if ever, with any coherence. What then in the process of going to sleep? What is the process of going to sleep? This is partially explained in physiology. It is said by occultism to be the periodical and regulated exhaustion of the nervous centers, and especially of the sensory ganglia of the brain, which refuse to act any longer on this plane, and if they would not become unfit for work, are compelled to recuperate their strength on another plane, or upadi. First comes to the svapna, or dream state, and this leads to the sushupti. Now it must be remembered that our senses are all dual and act according to the plane of consciousness on which the thinking entity energizes. Physical sleep affords the greatest facility for its actions on the various planes. At the same time, it is a necessity in order that the senses may recuperate and obtain a new lease of life for the jagrata or waking state from the svapna and the sushupti. According to Raj Yoga, Turiya is the highest state. As a man exhausted by one state of the life fluid seeks another, as, for example, when exhausted by the hot air, he refreshes himself with cool water, so sleep is the shady nook in the sunlit valley of life. Sleep is a sign that waking life has become too strong for the physical organism, and that the force of life current must be broken by changing the waking for the sleeping. Ask a good clairvoyant to describe the aura of a person just refreshed by sleep, and that of another just before going to sleep. The former will be seen bathed in rhythmical vibrations of light currents, golden, blue, and rosy. These are the electrical waves of life. The latter is, as it were, in a mist of intense golden orange hue, composed of atoms swirling with almost incredible spasmodic rapidity, showing that the person begins to be too strongly saturated with life. The life essence is too strong for his physical organs, and he must seek relief in the shadowy side of essence, which side is the dream element, or physical sleep, one of the states of consciousness. So this is a lot to take on, and I basically want y'all, that's why I sent you the PDF on it. But I think it's all very interesting. Any comments or suggestions or clarifications?
I think there's something here on if you could go back a little bit on the text.
I can't hear you real well, Eloisa. Can you speak up just a bit?
Yeah, there is one. I think this is 2 pages ago. That when he said, I wish I could have the text right in front of me. No, it's even before that. The one prior to that. Yes, here. He said, I think it's okay. It says, but there are the weeds, there are weeds that must be destroyed in order that a plant may grow. We must die, said St. Paul, that we may live again. It's through destruction. This is the paragraph that I wanted to talk to. Destruction that we may improve, and the three powers, the preserving, creating, and the destroying, are only so many aspects of the divine spark within man. The minute I read that, I thought of the dark night of the soul. And according to St. John, he describes the dark night of the soul like this. Whoops, wait a minute, hold on a second here. I have to, always when you, it says here, in this, the soul, okay, when I put it in kind of, the soul tells the mode and manner in which it departs as to its affection from itself and from all things, dying through a true, oh my God, I'm sorry, dying through a true mortification to all of them and to itself, to arrive at a sweet, delicious life with God. So how much did we have to go through and destroy the as they say, that we may live again is through destruction that we may improve. And this is, it reminds me of the dark night of the soul.
So in the dark night of the soul, which is very much part of the Jungian, we do a lot of studies with the depression and the dark night of the soul. You're destroying elements of the ego that are attached to their egos. So when you are in a sleep state, the ego that, let's say, not the higher ego, but the lower ego, the personality, has trouble remembering anything of higher nature because it has, that's the weeds. Those are the weeds. Those attachments, those longings that we're trying to get over. So I don't want to minimize Dark Night of the Soul or St. John of the Cross, because that was very important. That, like in astrology, people go through 2.5-year periods of Dark Night of the Soul every time Saturn does a return. And so there is a learning process of weeding out the personality attachment issues. Thanks so much, Eloisa, for bringing that up. When I was in seminary, I was studying the Bible, and I would literally have dreams of Paul, who I felt was very agonizing as a man. He, after his conversion, he literally was in agony over everything. He wanted to clear up everything he had ever done as the Jew that he was before. Not that he wasn't a Jew again, but he also was enlightened by his spirit, by his higher being. And so I would have dreams of Paul during seminary, which I think are very interesting because I would bring it up to my professors and they would, and I got very attached to the Pauline letters. So especially his Corinthians, he talks about gifts of the Spirit. And so this thing about activating imagination is very important. Like when you hear people say, I don't dream, that's one thing. When they say, I don't remember my dreams, that's another. So I've got to cough a while, so turn it over to other people.
Oh, just one more thing. It's also reminded me of the Christ before the resurrection, that he had to go to hell and then to raise to the heavens. And that reminds me of the dark night of the soul. Over.
This is Weiler, and there was a lot you read I didn't understand. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, Weiler.
But I do think that the dreaming everybody dreams, whether they remember it or not, and everybody dreams about every 2 hours a night. And there's been a lot of recent research on the neurology of dreams, which I don't know very much about, except that apparently even higher animals dream. Dogs dream. So I think dreaming, the only the takeaway I have is that dreams can be expressions of many, many different levels of the being. And we can learn to tune in to those various levels. And that's kind of my understanding about it. I don't know if I'm making too much sense, but...
Yeah, it does, Weiler. And you mentioned animals dreaming. So when we dream, we're dreaming from different centers. We dream from our sensory center. We dream from our mental center. We dream from emotions and feeling center. Our dream memory, we're trying to remember sensory input through our mental faculties. Like animals will remember only sensory feeling orientation. So they're not languaging, you see. But
Yeah.
if you've been around a cat or a dog dreaming, they will whimper, they will shake.
Yeah.
You know, I've watched my dogs through time dream, and their eyelids flutter. So much of the same kind of response that we do, only our mental part is what remembers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for that, Weiler.
Sure.
Gwen, this is Nancy. I have to say this is kind of funny because, you know, last week and the week before when you did Blavatsky, I didn't understand. I didn't understand a lot of it. But being a clairvoyant, listening to her answers with this made total sense. You know, because I have, you know, how we've all talked about what we really learn is what we experience. Well, if you can call up experiences, and only some of this do I disagree with because everyone has a sixth sense. Okay, not everyone may be as facile with their clairvoyance. They may be clairaudient, you know, hear better. So it just depends on what of the five senses you gravitate towards. But it is interesting because having had clairvoyant experiences, I then recognize them in dreams now. And it just makes total sense what she says here to me. So to have someone else that was clairvoyant be able to validate what I was thinking is very good for me. So thanks.
Well, I would disagree with one thing. Yes, everybody has the ability to have the sixth sense, but many, and I would say over 80% of the population, has not tried to even develop that sixth sense. So when you're talking, when you're talking about that, clairvoyance especially, one of the things that I've noticed, because I have clear vision, I'll see symbols, I'll see auras, that type of thing. But when I'm talking to a person that has no intention of developing, it scares them to develop that sixth sense, they will ask me about their aura, and I will tell them personally, I see your aura, but I want you to be able to see it and not rely on other people all the time to see it. Because what it's showing is something that you need to pursue. And so activating, and I'm real devoted to that, Nancy, about activating people's intuition and their psychic vision, and not relying on someone else to do that for them. That has been a real goal of mine, a spiritual goal in many ways, and I know it is for you too. So I just wanted to add that we give people a lot of credit, but part of them that needs to be activated is the part that depresses, that lives in depression, that they won't, once it's activated, then they have to do the work, the inner work. And that inner work goes on and on and on forever. And we definitely, when we go to our own little hells and our own little shadow, we see the things we don't want to see. So I have great respect for people who they want to do their inner work, but they want to do it very slowly. And I think that that's really a good idea, because I've seen people go too fast, too strongly, and blow out their whole life, basically. So I'm very cautious, like a cat, very with my paws on tender feet, you know. Anyway, anybody else have anything to say? Okay, we're going to go on to our dream, and Nancy has decided that she wants this recorded. So, yeah, there you go.
Okay, so this is a dream that I had.
Yeah, Nancy, you want to go ahead and read it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a dream that I had on the 7th of this month. It's actually 20 days ago. And I titled it People Out of Their Cars. Okay, so this may be new for y'all since you didn't get this dream ahead of time. So it's short. I will just read it to you and also tell you some of the information that I kind of analyzed about it. Okay, the setting is a large 6-lane boulevard in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is where I grew up. It's one that has, 3 lanes going in either directions, with the boulevard meaning a small amount of land in between the 6 lanes. It's one of the main thoroughfares that leads through the city, so it goes all the way from the river, the downtown area, all the way out to the interstate. So it's a large main artery for the city. The pieces of the dream are there are drivers and cars, there's a multitude of people, and there is no one whom I know. I'm going to go ahead, and I see this was kind of put in reverse. I'm going to go ahead and read the dream, and then I'll talk about the props or symbols. So here's the dream. I'm watching what is taking place in this dream. I am not actually in the action of the dream. People have stopped their vehicles, scattered across the 3 lanes of traffic, and are out of their cars. Most are just standing right beside their vehicles. Every few minutes, at regular intervals, another group of cars, as if the traffic light somewhere behind these vehicles has turned green, these group of cars will come down the roadway, passing around the vehicles that are stopped and proceeding on their way to the next traffic light or on down the road out of vision. None of the people out of the cars are in any danger by the passing vehicles. It is as if you were watching some type of video game. The cars just adjust, drive around, and continue on their way. This pattern continues several times as I watch what is taking place. Toward the end of the dream, I am now a character within the action, so I've switched gears. And as I see 3 women, I'm now like down on the ground, level with the individuals. As I see 3 women walking down the side of the road together with their arms around each other, almost as if 1 or 2 of them needed the support of the other individuals. They are wearing the same type of clothing, a uniform of some type. It kind of looked military or police. Then this included hats. All 3 were women. I start to walk towards them, telling them that they don't need to abandon their cars, that I can help them. I am close enough that they can hear me. They look up as I speak to them, and then the dream ends. So just a little bit of added information. the dream says it seems to be like people that are seeking my help, particularly women. So that was one interpretation I took from it. The other thing is that it has to do with cars, and I have, from time to time, dreamed of cars. I have, my most recent dream of a car that I had was after my brother died. My brother's on the side of the road. I'm driving the car, and I pick him up. He looks good. He looks like he did when he was young. I said, come on, Will, get in the car, and we'll drive over to my uncle's house, and y'all can go for a visit. So for me, cars are, I have my own interpretation of what a car is. And so that's kind of important or key to this dream about and what cars mean. So I'll be curious to know what y'all think of that. And then if you could just go back, Steve, for the slide one. Yeah, thank you. So the props would be the cars, the large roadway, the military police uniforms, the number 3. This is what reminded me because this was right after Side's dream, and Gwen had sent out the information about the 3 bears, the story, the fairy tale. And there's also a large group of people that I don't know. I will tell you this. I have prophetic dreams. I had one several days before this dream. And in that prophetic dream, I was given, it was a 5-second view, a clairvoyant view. And then that night on the news, I got confirmation of what that dream was about. It happened to be, Heloise, I'm thinking of you, it happened to be the fire that they had in Paris, where the people were jumping out of their windows, basically, to get away from the fire in that apartment building. So I had a view of that. In fact, Gwen, it was the tower card that I saw. And then that night, I got well, you know what I mean, a fairly short, I saw the immediate picture of the guy, and so I knew exactly what that dream was. For this one, I did not have immediate confirmation about what the dream means. So anyway, that's a little bit of what I can tell you, and now I will be quiet.
Well, not too quiet. I want you to tell me what your immediate experience of working with 3 women or working with women is right now in your waking life. What kind of experiences do you have with working with women?
Okay, well, I thought about that, and from the most part, I have a group of friends that I have whom I've met through various spiritual workshops. A number of them happen to be mediums because we were doing workshops together, and then we just continued our friendships. So those people that I know predominantly are women. So I have a strong connection for whatever reason. You know, even in our groups, I was listening to Kevin Todashi the other night talking about Edgar Cayce, and he says the groups that go to ARE, the Association for Research and Enlightenment, Edgar Cayce's group down in Virginia Beach, are 65% women. So I just feel like there is a stronger connection or a bond that I have with women. As it relates to, searching out their spirituality, etc., or their journeys.
I think it's interesting you mentioned Edgar Cayce. I roomed with the woman that was head of his library in Virginia Beach. She was 85 and I was like in my 40s, and we were on a cruise learning about astrology. And at the time, she told me that the people that transmitted or transcribed his work were all women. There were no males, because he was in trance, so therefore there was no ability on his part to remember exactly or to transcribe. So the library itself is full, as you well know, of exact prescriptions to illnesses, so he goes into the Akashic records. my next question to you would be, do you ever have a sense of going into the Akashic Records to get this information, especially like your Paris dream? Do you go back through it and see what you were picking up?
You know, I never thought about it that way, because that topic that I was watching had to do with the Akashic Record. And so I kind of, you know, I thought I knew what the Akashic Record was, or I studied it like 10 or 15 years ago. But now, Gwen, that's sort of all coming back around again on the spiral. And I'm sort of learning new things, or looking at it a different way. So I would say that, you know, for me, I've always thought about it being sort of that, you know, we talk about Chronos versus Kairos time, and it just sort of being in the dream state. There is no time. And so what I'm seeing is a vision of something that's taking place, you know, within the somewhat immediate future. But I will tell you this. If I would have said to you, I have dreams, but the dreams are prophetic, it would only be in relationship to people I know or my family members, except 2 years ago that has sort of switched and changed, because I've had a couple of dreams now of natural disasters. I had a dream that was in relationship to the Charlottesville incident and the death of that woman. So that's sort of shifted within the past 2 years. They seem to be more global prophetic dreams. Not that I know ahead of time, but that I can, after the fact and after the incident has been made public, I can see the pieces or the symbolism of the dream.
It's like a deja vu that goes back to the dream. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then it makes the dream, it gives sense to the dream for what I was doing in the dream or what I was seeing. And the other thing about this dream too, which I would say, this dream and the dream that I had about the Paris fire is I'm not an individual. I'm like, it would be like I was doing a mediumship reading for somebody, and I'm sitting at my desk and I'm talking to you on, you know, on Skype or Zoom, and all of a sudden, in my mind's eye, I see an image, you know, on a screen, and so there's a definite being back from what's taken place. So I just kind of recognize that now, and I'm going to actually make it more a point of seeing in the future whether I'm in the actual dream and I'm a person participating in the dream, or I'm standing back viewing it as if I would be doing a mediumship reading. So.
Very interesting. Do any of you have other questions, or if this was your dream, would you have how you would go about going through this as if it were your dream?
Well, I was just wondering why the cars were stopped and why the people were out of the cars. This is what that was about. Do you have any thought about that?
Nancy, you are muted.
Huh?
I'm sorry, Weiler. I muted myself. Thanks, Steve. I flipped the switch the wrong way. I do have an idea about that, because for me, the cars have always represented maybe your whole self, your higher self, your whole entity, and so that is your vehicle, if you will, to travel. Like when I took my brother who had passed to go see my uncle, I knew that was like a metaphysical accompanying of him. So I feel like my own interpretation of it is that these people are stuck. They're stuck in something on their spiritual journey that I might have some bit of information that would get them unstuck. Their cars are perfectly fine. It's not like I'm seeing smoke coming out of them or anything. They're just not moving. And then there are other people that are moving, and they just drive right around them, sort of like you would see something on a little video game. They're just perfectly moving on down on their journey, and they're driving around these people, and I'm thinking, it appears to me in the dream that I'm being told that I have something I could share that would help these individuals become unstuck. So that's my interpretation.
I think Weiler, what Weiler was asking, and what you're saying is, if you said that you believe cars to be pretty much the psyche, the intact psyche, I'm saying I am interpreting that as, if it were my dream, it's the psyche that's manifested on Earth.
Right.
So it's not the higher.
Right.
So if someone is stuck, my question is, if someone is stuck in their process on Earth, how would you, in this dream, because it sounds like you're coming down to help them. You're helping them. You see some people moving along and in their cars, and some of them not. So what you say here is, if the traffic light somewhere behind these vehicles is turned green, so on some of them, evidently the traffic light is red. Is that true? Or what? How do they do that?
Well, what I mean is, it just means they come through in waves, Gwen. So the people that are stuck there, let's say there are 5 cars that are stuck there, every once in a while a wave of cars will come through, weed their way through, and then pass on by. But the same 5 people are still stuck there. They're just standing there not knowing what to do. Yeah, with the stuck vehicle. That's all I can say.
Well, if in my dream, I would ask myself, where in my ongoing flow am I stuck? Because, I may come up with the idea that I'm not stuck, but the dream, if all the parts of the dream can be looked at as parts of ourselves, and I emphasize can be looked at that way, then the issue of where am I stuck at the moment, and my inner traffic is going on around it, but what is there that I could look at, I could see, that I wasn't aware of before?
That's a real good point, Weiler, because I do feel stuck. I do feel stuck because I don't feel like I know how I'm supposed to help people. That's what I'm feeling stuck with. Is it through astrology? Is it through mediumship? You see, I feel like I've been going down these different avenues and not and getting answers that didn't give me the green light, that didn't say, oh, this is it, this is the direction you should be headed in. So I totally get that about feeling stuck myself. I'm at that Saturn return. My second Saturn return was actually this past Monday, so I totally get that.
Okay.
Well, and I've got to say, Weiler, you brought up some great points here, because I know you, Nancy, and I also have traveled many roads. I'm quite a bit older than you, but I've traveled many roads thinking, okay, am I supposed to teach astrology? Am I supposed to teach self-awareness? Am I supposed to teach, I've got degrees out the gazoo. None of them. I'm teaching Gwen. I'm teaching Gwenology. How to trust your intuition through whatever it takes, whether through prayer, through whatever. But I got to tell you, there is no one thing I would see, Nancy. Nancy, you've been through seminary. You have been a minister. You are clairvoyant. You've got all of these possibilities. You see? So if it were my dream, you are now seeing it from your higher self. You're looking down at these people, not down on them, but down at them. and you're looking at yourself. If it were my dream, I would be looking at myself. How can I help these stuck people to move on? How can I help these women, specifically the last three, to move on? So the Father, Son, Holy Ghost inside of yourself, the three centers inside of yourself, or myself, if it were my dream, I would be looking at what center am I stuck in the senses? Am I stuck in my mentality? Am I stuck in my feelings? And I would start looking at not focusing on my stuck places, but focusing on because in the dream, the moving forward is what it's all about, moving the traffic, moving these cars. It's not easy to be on this planet right now. We've got chaos. We've got too many stuck cars out there. And it's because we as individuals say, I don't know what I can do. What can I do? When in fact, it's one person at a time you can help. But you got to help yourself first with your own boundaries. You see, so if it were my dream, this is all about that, about teaching, about helping others move forward. And if it were my dream, I would not be worried about how much I know or don't know. I would just go do it. And you have studied with me and you know yourself, I'm not a professional in all these ways. And you have met with professionals. I have spent thousands of dollars on so-called professionals, including Jungians. Like, I'm going to mention, since he's dead, I can say James Hillman. I spent thousands of dollars studying with James Hillman. I learned what I could learn, and I discarded the rest that were the weeds, okay? That's not anything about him. I'm not saying anything about him. I'm saying I take what I can get, and then I pass it on. And so I'm just saying, Nancy, because I do know you, and I know you work very hard at determining these things. So good luck.
Well, thank you, Gwen. You know I'm my North Node is in Virgo, dear. So one of our problems is never feeling that you're ready, never feeling that you know enough. And so I know, because I was in school all my life, I know that I don't feel like I'm ready, that I have enough knowledge or anything that I can share. And so there you go. So it's easier to say, no. Let me just study a little bit more. Let me study this topic, that sort of thing.
Well, you might want to ask that part of you that's in the dream watching all this. You might want to ask for guidance from that part of you.
Hi, Nancy.
Hello.
This is Deborah. How do you relate to the women that you're offering your help to? And how do you relate to the clothing that they're wearing? They're in uniform, police, or military. They have a uniform, structured, higher ordered, committed kind of look. How do you relate to the women that you're offering to help in their clothing?
That's interesting, Deborah, that you bring that up, because I was wondering why the heck they were wearing uniforms. You know what I mean? It would not be what you would normally think of. And immediately I feel like that idea of uniformity or police or something like that would be somebody that I wouldn't necessarily want to interact with. I'm very Uranian. I'm very eclectic. I feel like I myself am very out of the norm. And so for me to approach people like that gives me, and they don't this would not be representative of quote unquote who my friends are, because they're not in the norm either. You know what I'm saying? So that is a good point that you bring that up. I'm not hesitant to walk toward them. My overall goal is to help them. So I do wonder what that means about it, maybe indicating either a different type of people or perhaps, you know what I'm saying, a different group of people. So yeah, I'd have to think about that some more.
Yeah, and I just want to add this so that I can convey a bit of my story, which is like your story.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Well, I'm a psychic medium, all of that. I'm a Uranian type. I've done this and that and the other. And at the same time, I provided mental health services to those in the military.
Oh, okay.
So my last assignment was 6 months in Japan on a base there. And the military culture is very different than what you would think that a person like me would be interested in, but I'm very interested in that environment because in that culture there is a higher calling of a vibe that kind of runs through things. So on the surface, it might seem that it's not a good fit, but on another level, it's a wonderful fit. And again, and I heard you talk about your chart. You know, I have an exact Sun-Neptune conjunction. I got Uranus trouncing over everything, etc. And I think there's something deeper to be found there in our assumptions about what this uniform and military-like clothing would mean. So I would ask you to explore that.
Wow, Deborah, thank you so much. That is such a unique perspective that you have that you can share. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
fascinating. I will say this just because I love synchronicity, but I lived in Japan for a year. I taught school over there. So, you know, I love Japan, and that's just so neat. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I definitely will have to think about that. So,
right.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, can I say something?
Sure, absolutely.
Talking about synchronicity, this is amazing because the two of you have been to Japan, and all I'm doing right now is engrossed in reading the history of Japan and the art and the, the art and the religion, because I'm going there in the month of May. Yeah, but I had to add that the synchronicities for the three of us because Japan is so much in my mind. Also, when you said before that there were those, if this is my dream, that there was a part that was stuck. I saw it very much like Wilder did, in terms of, I would ask myself, which part of me is stuck within the cars, but there's another side of me that is flowing so easily, and it goes around. So there are these two sides of myself. Those are the ones that, they go through the traffic lights and they don't stop and they just go around the circle. And, so this is another part that is more developed. It's exactly, as Csikszentmihalyi said in this book, the flow. These goals that side of you would go, of me, if it was my dream, is with the flow. Even though I think there are parts that are still stuck. And that one part can illuminate the other one because it's the opposite of flow. It's stuck.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that. That makes sense.
Good. And I wondered also with the view of the military. Military, I personally perceive people who are stuck to the rules in a very rigid way. Maybe I'm coming from a position now in my country that is becoming military with this new government, and that started with military schools, and it's something that is so contriving. I mean, there's no freedom in this, and they're stuck. But what Deborah was saying, that seeing the military within the Japanese culture, which is a different, I guess, from what you told me, within that culture, there's a whole other meaning of the military.
You know what is interesting, Chloe, is the fact that there's so many multiple layers upon layers, you know?
Yeah, I know.
And whether we're talking about me as an individual being stuck in some areas, not stuck in other areas, and trying to see how that goes. The Japanese are very much the same way in respect, because their culture has always been prescribed by rules and regulations. I mean, to the nth degree. It's fascinating to see how everything is culturally organized around rules and structures. And yet the individuals, like what Deborah was saying, I see this as a parallel, the individuals, they themselves can be beautifully flowing and open, which is what they exemplify in their calligraphy, in their ikebana, in their artwork, and in their lives. So it's a fascination of the two things coinciding together, but trying to create the way that the balance is more, productive. So, yes, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, and also because in Japan, the Zen is so important.
Right.
In the arts and everything, and even the samurai, they were just they were warriors, yes, but they were also very dedicated to studying, and also within their religion and Buddhism.
Right.
So it's this mixture. You're right.
Even their military, like you were saying, their art forms are both art and military functions. With the various military arts. Yeah, thank you so much.
So the upshot, that is a beautiful discussion, girls. I am also amazed. I've studied the Japanese culture for many years, and I love their flow. They don't get stuck. They flow one into the other. So maybe that's a lesson here for us all to learn to flow with what we've been taught, not to get stuck in the rules. And I'm going to tell you, in spiritual work, you can get very stuck in the rules. And you can get stuck in dogma. So this is a great lesson for everyone, and we're at the end of our time. Nancy, you feel like you got a lot from this dream?
I do, thank you, and I appreciate you using that Japanese screen behind you so that we can have that,
Oh, yeah.
And I have a lot more symbols in my room. I have their gongs. I used to have swords, and my kids made me take them down, They said, Mom, you're not a samurai warrior. I said, oh, yes, I am.
Nancy, I just want to mention that when I was on that military base, I had unlimited number of visits from people on the other side. It was crazy.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think y'all all, this has just been really, like you said, just an enjoyable time, and your insights have been very meaningful. So I'm going to have to sit there and try and figure out where I need to flow more.
Well, and this is a good reason. Thank you for letting us record this. And for those of you who are listening to the recording, at least 10 other people are listening to this. We will try to keep you up because there are people in India, people traveling all over the world that cannot be with us, but they're hearing this. And so rather than take your name out of the dream pool, just know that you can be with us. This is not sent to the public. This is sent to only those people that are in the dream group. So we probably have about 20 or so in the group itself. So enjoy, and thanks again, Nancy. You're precious for doing this.
Yep, thank you all. Have a good afternoon. Thanks, Helen.
Okay.
Bye-bye, Deborah. Thank you, everybody. Bye, Helen.
Thank you.
Bye.